Jam on toast!
Hi there everybody, welcome to the Jam. Today the toast is going to be to the hero's journey as it pertains to Zoolander. Now I was down in the comments talking with Jenny on her Zoolander review. You can see that here. If you haven't seen her, check her out, she's absolutely lovely. And she referred to the hero's journey in Zoolander. I did not see it at first and immediately contested her, which she wrote back promptly and succinctly and beautifully, and kind of shoved it in my face. However, I still wasn't completely sold and I needed to do this out. So let's see if I can talk this out and figure out if I agree with Jenny or not. Now, Zoolander is a story about a model who's at the top of his game in the world, and that's sort of his ordinary world, if you will. We'll go ahead and go to point one, where he's on top and he's used to that, and it's kind of a weird twist because normally your character is an ordinary person who goes to extraordinary. Now we're starting in a extraordinary world with an extraordinary type person in that world who actually has to be knocked down, which is where we see the call to adventure. When the newcomer Hansel comes up and starts this competition that he's never even imagined, he starts to question himself, even going to the far as to retire, which is point 3, refusal of the call. Right after he announces he's going to retire, he runs into Christine Taylor's character again. While she's trying to dig up Mugatu, he starts talking to her and they start conversing, and she ends up advising her. This is where I would say she ends up being his mentor, which is number 4, because without her he doesn't have the brains to compete with anything. I would say that points 4 and 5 here blur together to kind of mix. As Zoolander goes to the day spa, Christine Taylor's character follows him there, and as he's crossing the threshold, she really cinches in and becomes one of his allies as well. Which is where the start of point number 6, test allies and enemies, comes in, because she's the one that takes him to confront Hansel head on and reconcile. And now with Hansel and Christine Taylor as his companions, if you will, he's better equipped to deal with the situation. Point 7, the approach is very clearly where they go and try to steal the files from the computer together and fail fantastically. Points 8 through 12 get mixed together rather well here, and it's definitely where Hansel's battling the DJ and Zoolander is trying to attack the Malaysian Prime Minister, and Mila Jovovich and Christine Taylor are fighting because why not? And then eventually Mugatu jumps in. Now, while everything's quite blood here, and the ordeal is the battle itself, but when Ballstein steps up and gives the upper hand, Zoolander gets the reward by finally turning left, and uses that to defeat the throwing star belt buckle and save the Malaysian Prime Minister. Now, while you could argue that Ballstein's interference could be the reward itself, I think that Magnum is the reward, and that the road back actually started before the reward happened, because the ordeal ends with Ballstein interfering, and then we start rolling back to where Derek is number 1 and famous again, and then all of a sudden we have the resurrection where Mugatu throws his belt buckle, Zoolander uses Magnum, and he ends up going to point 12 where he starts up the Zoolander school for kids that don't read so good. Now, while my overall opinion of it is that it's rather perverted and twisted, it's my intense pleasure to be wrong in this case, and I know better than mess with Jenny. I think that's it for me. I'm Cameron. Have a nice day.